Welcome to MogulCast, where we uncover the stories behind the world's greatest business empires. Let's get into today's story.
In January 2022, Elizabeth Holmes stood in a federal courtroom and was convicted on 4 counts of fraud. The company she founded had once been valued at $9 billion. By the time the verdict came down, every dollar of that valuation had collapsed and the company itself had been dissolved for over 3 years. This is the full story, and it is worse than you think. In 2003, a 19-year-old Stanford undergraduate named Elizabeth Holmes had an idea. She envisioned a wearable patch that could adjust drug dosages and monitor variables in patients' blood. That concept evolved into lab-on-a-chip technology designed to perform rapid blood tests using only tiny amounts of blood. She dropped out of Stanford and founded Theranos that same year. We will come back to one specific decision. It is the key to everything. Holmes pitched a vision that sounded revolutionary. Instead of vials of blood drawn by needles, Theranos claimed its compact, automated devices could run hundreds of tests from a single finger prick. The promise was seductive: faster results, less pain, and dramatically lower costs. Investors poured in over $700 million. But the technology behind that promise was never independently validated. The company operated in extreme secrecy, refusing to publish peer-reviewed data or allow outside scrutiny. By 2013 and 2014, Theranos had reached its zenith. The company's valuation soared to $9 billion, making Holmes the youngest self-made female billionaire in the world. Forbes estimated her personal net worth at $450 billion. She graced magazine covers, delivered TED Talks, and attracted a board of directors that included former secretaries of state and military generals. The narrative was irresistible. A visionary founder disrupting a stagnant industry. Theranos secured major partnerships, including a high-profile deal to place its testing devices in Walgreens stores. The company projected an image of inevitable dominance. Holmes appeared on stage alongside world leaders and was celebrated as the next Steve Jobs. The media anointed her a generational talent, but not everyone was celebrating. The business model seemed simple. Theranos would charge for blood tests performed on its proprietary Edison devices. Lower cost, faster results, and a direct-to-consumer pipeline through retail pharmacies. But here is what the media completely got wrong about this. The Edison devices never worked as advertised. Internally, Theranos was running most of its tests on commercially available machines from other manufacturers, not its own technology. The gap between what Theranos claimed and what actually existed inside its laboratories was staggering. Employees who raised concerns were silenced or dismissed. The company's secrecy was framed as protection of intellectual property, but it served a darker purpose: preventing anyone from discovering that the core technology was fundamentally flawed. Patients were receiving test results that were medically unreliable, and some of those patients made critical health decisions based on numbers that were wrong. In 2015, the cracks finally broke through the surface. Medical research professor John Ioannidis and clinical biochemistry Professor Eleftherios Diamandis publicly questioned the validity of Theranos' technology. These were not bloggers or speculators. They were respected scientists demanding basic evidence that any legitimate medical company should easily provide. Theranos had no answers. The silence was deafening. Then came the blow that shattered everything. Wall Street Journal investigative journalist John Carreyrou published a bombshell investigation exposing that Theranos was not using its own technology for the vast majority of its tests. Former employees spoke on the record about manipulated data, failed quality controls, and a culture of intimidation. The article sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley and the medical establishment overnight. The fallout was swift and devastating. CMS imposed sanctions. The SEC launched an investigation. State attorneys general, former partners, and patients all filed lawsuits. By June 2016, Forbes revised Holmes's net worth from $4.5 billion to nothing. And if you have made it this far, you already understand something most analysts completely missed. Theranos was formally dissolved in September 2018. In 2018, the SEC charged Theranos, Holmes and former company president Sunny Balwani with fraudery. The charges alleged a years-long scheme to deceive investors about the company's technology and financial performance. The empire was not just failing, it was built on deception from the start. In January 2022, Holmes was found guilty on 4 counts of fraud. That November, she was sentenced to 11 years and 3 months in prison. Balwani was convicted on all 12 counts brought against him in July 2022 and sentenced that December to 12 years and 11 months in prison, plus 3 years of probation. 2 lives destroyed. Hundreds of employees scarred. Patients who trusted the results still living with the consequences. Remember that decision we mentioned at the start? Here is what it actually cost. When Holmes decided to operate in absolute secrecy, never publishing peer-reviewed data, never allowing independent validation, she made a choice. That choice enabled the fraud to persist for over a decade. It transformed a bold vision into a criminal enterprise. The cost was $700 million in investor capital, countless compromised medical decisions, and the complete destruction of trust in a technology that might have genuinely helped people. Founded in 2003. Over $700 million raised. Peak valuation of $9 billion in 2013 and 2014. Holmes's net worth went from $4.5 billion to zero by June 2016. Company dissolved, September 2018. Holmes convicted on 4 counts, sentenced to 11 years and 3 months. Balwani convicted on 12 counts, sentenced to 12 years and 11 months plus 3 years of probation. The real lesson of Theranos is not about one fraudster. It is about a system that wanted to believe. Investors, media, and partners all suspended the most basic due diligence because the story was too compelling to question. No one demanded peer-reviewed data. No one asked why a medical company operated like a fortress. The fraud persisted because everyone chose the dream over the evidence. The next time a founder promises to disrupt an industry built on science, demand the science first. If you want to understand how this pattern repeats across every major business collapse, the next video covers a story with disturbing parallels. That one is next.
That's the story for today on MogulCast. If you found this valuable, subscribe and hit the bell. A new Empire story drops every single weekday. See you tomorrow.